when you finally stop performing, basically acting, and start being your real self, something surprising happens. You start to worry, am I being too much? Too loud, too opinionated, too honest, or too real? Let's talk about that fear and what to do about it. Why do women suddenly feel like they're being too much? Well, it starts with social conditioning, and lately in the last couple years, there's been this whole thing about being demure. And back when I was a book coach, I remember helping a woman with a book on corporate success and being successful in the business world. And I remember the one chapter we talked about more than any other, we called the tightrope, because for women, the behaviors that are appropriate, if you're going to kind of like speak up for yourself and promote yourself and all of those, are very different in terms of what's permissible for men, right? So anyway, we're like fed this message constantly, and we get it in childhood too. And both boys and girls get it, but with girls it like continues, whereas with boys it's like they're expected to be more outspoken as they grow up. And we're always told to be nice, to be sort of easy, not in a sexual sense as much as like be easy to be around, right? Be pleasant. But there's a cost that comes from that, because really what that's doing is kind of like shrinking who it is that you truly are. And there's a cost that comes with that, because you're not really being you. And that matters, because we only have this one life to live, right? So let's talk about the real self versus the performed or the acted self. The performed self is predictable, safe. She is not going out on the skinny branches, whereas the real self is powerful and outspoken. The real self has opinions and boundaries and preferences, and sometimes that's not always easy for other people to deal with, especially when they've known you to be sort of, get along with everyone, people pleaser, all that kind of thing. In my 40s, I became a book author. And if you're going to be a book author and you want to sell any books, you have to be outspoken if you want to promote that book. And some people did think I was kind of being too much. And, keep in mind, like naturally, I'm an introvert, so some people did think I was being too much, and other people thought I was just right. Just absolutely fine. And I don't know why this is, but I think there's a human tendency to focus more on the people who are kind of a problem and who object to us, rather than the ones who celebrate with us and are aligned with us. That's like, oh, well, that's easy. But the ones that, like stick in our craw are the ones that kind of have a problem with us. We keep playing that in our mind. That's a natural thing to do. So, but there's also a feel of rejection. If I'm real, will people leave? Yeah, a few might. If I'm honest, will I be judged? Yeah, that's possible. If I stop shrinking myself and being the people pleaser all the time, will I be alone? Well, you might, but you'll also attract those people who are drawn to your ideas and your intelligence and your smarts and all of those things. Because the truth is that being your real self filters out the wrong people, and it attracts and draws in the right people. So it's entirely possible there'll be this whole shift, right, of the people who are drawn to you and who like hanging out with you and being with you and spending time with you. And And I know that doesn't help when the ones that it feels like you're losing are your family, but I guarantee you, your family, you know, I would say 9 times out of 10, maybe more, all right, they do adjust to the new you. And there's also, I want to mention this before I wrap up. There's also a tendency when we become real and instead of like a performance, an act, a people pleaser, there's a tendency to do it in a way that's not the most elegant, let's say, right? Because it's new, and so sometimes it kind of like spits forth in a way that's not supportive of the other person as well, right? Because we all want positive encouragement, and we all want to be seen, as in a positive light and as a person who has value and all those things. And one of the things I learned from a boss, a guy that I worked with, is he said, and I was at that stage, I think I was in my mid-30s when I was working for him, when I was being very outspoken, and that rubbed some people the wrong way, And he said, Denise, he said, try this. He said, how can you say things in such a way so that you get what you want and the other person gets what they want too? And of course, what is that? That's win-win, right? That's everybody gets what they want. So in closing, your real self isn't too much. She's just kind of unfamiliar because you've been performing for so long. This is Denise. What I wish I knew at 30 on YouTube. Please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We are growing. We're still small, but we are growing. And I'd love to see if you have a comment. I read all the comments. I reply to most of the comments. So thanks so much and have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.